I have a confession to make. I'm not really the kind of guy who's into comic books, but I kind of like the idea behind today's game. You play the main character in a comic book, in Accolade Comics. Accolade Comics is a mixture of choose your own adventure story and a bunch of mini games combined together and presented mostly in the style of a comic book. So yeah, to an extent you could say this is an interactive comic book. In this virtual comic book, which you start by pressing fire during the introductory sequence, you portray Steve Keen. He's a freelance spy, so to speak, but you portray him only if you start the main game and aren't going to train the mini-games. Steve Keen works for a spy. Their headquarters are covered. They have a front pet alteration store where cats can be turned into dogs and vice versa. By picking one of the options when your boss is talking, you choose one of the included two storylines. Either the rescue of the missing Professor Zoran Farad, or the mysterious case of the reproducing fire hydrants. Sounds a bit like sci-fi to me, but then, what do I know about comic books? But here's how you control the comic book part. By moving your joystick, which has to be plugged into joystick port number 2, by moving your joystick to the left, you choose the previous option, usually the one at top and the one already selected. By moving to the right, you select the next one. Pressing fire chooses and advances the story. Pressing the at key, which on an emulator often is mapped to the opening square bracket, the left square bracket, that saves the game. Okay, you know what? I'm going to use the emulator keys now. With tab and L, the image gets lighter, brighter. With tab and J, the image gets darker. Tab and R instantly resets the game without prior asking again. And now onto the minigames. One is called Climber, and in this you have to collect 5 randomly appearing keys without becoming Shark Chow. Unfortunately, the bars you're hanging from, they appear and disappear randomly as well. The shark, by the way, is named Harry. So you move around with your joystick. That's obvious, isn't it? Well, another one is called Swimmer, in which, as the name suggests, you have to swim through caverns. You need to breathe, and when your breath is completely gone, so is your life. And you can do that in the caves, in the caverns, where the black background is visible. But don't go and try breathing in the toxic gases which are in the caves glowing red-blue. Oh, and the wildlife, that's dangerous or deadly as well. In the minigame, Conveyor Belt, you have to reach the top platform. You have to do so by jumping from conveyor belt to conveyor belt. And the belts randomly, well, not randomly, semi-randomly only, they change their directions, and the direction the belt you're currently on, as well as the direction you're currently moving, they define how far you jump. This game's kinda tricky, but fortunately the gears or rollers, or whatever you call them, I'm not an engineer, these things on the next conveyor belt, they are blinking. In Railcar, you're sitting in what I would usually refer to as a minecart. The game considers it a car, obviously, and there are red and blue trapdoors below you. These trapdoors are controlled by the operator on the topmost floor. So you need to climb up and not be on the trapdoors that are about to be opened, since then you'd lose a life. Also, you can only go one floor in the elevator, and only the one on the left goes all the way to the top. Bomber has you against a dog and, as the title suggests, a bomber. You can deflect the bombs and jump at the same time by pressing fire. Destroy the balcony the bomber is standing on by deflecting the bombs without being blown to bits, or eaten by the dog, who runs around and whom you have to jump over. Robots, now that's a confusing name. You are equipped with an explosive disc, which you need to toss at 6 stations, each one of them in their own hallway. So you toss your disc by pressing fire, and you need to detonate it when it's over the station by pressing fire again. Unfortunately, everything there is out to get you killed. In building, you climb, obviously a building, to the top floor where a helicopter is waiting. Unfortunately, there are miniature helicopters firing at you, and you have no way to fight back. You can, however, try to finish off these pests by directing their gunfire at each other. The last minigame we're looking at, well, that's called Jetpack. And in this, Agent Keen has a laser and has to destroy the fire hydrants while being strapped to his jetpack. The fire hydrants, by the way, they're the red dots. Unfortunately, you have to hit them multiple times so they become harmless blue spots. By the way, you can fire through ground formation so that you can shoot at hydrants that are further away from you. Oh, and there are miniature helicopters there as well. But they only need one shot to be out of the game, so yeah. Now, I personally, I'd prefer it either to be a collection of minigames or an interactive comic book, by which I simply mean an adventure game. But this is how Accolade decided to go. So, the story is goofy. I admit that, it's really goofy. The music is adequate, I'd say, and the minigames, well, they're a mixed bag. You see, a climber is relatively difficult because you never know if the bar you're clinging to is going to disappear. And sometimes you can be trapped because to the left is nothing, to the right is nothing, and then your bar disappears as well. Or when you're in the corner, the bars around you disappear and you can't go diagonally. You can only go left, right, up, down. So, but Railcar, that's relatively easy if you know what you're doing. So, this was Accolade Comics. I'm the last Angry Link No, wait. I'm still Dercork. And, yeah. This is Dercork signing out. Next time we're playing a game of a military operation. Well, of some kind at least. By which I mean I'm going to talk about VChat.